you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats is restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
We can get on a plane and take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to disappear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit, going old school today, a little nostalgic. Listen, yeah, until we had a chance to test it out again to see if everything was well. We had just had too much to test today because we now are live streaming to Rumble too, which we didn't advertise because we were waiting to see how it was going, and it's going all right. So until we did that, we figured, you know what, just stick with the backup, StreamYard backup, until we get it situated with Wirecast, which we will. All right, so lots to talk about today. Probably good anyway, because it's easy to share a screen or something like that. And I want to pop up market site. We have a lot we can. It's easy just to go through and revisit it. We did talk a little bit about the registered voter economic confidence index yesterday on what are the odds with Barnes and Barris, but I wanted to get a little bit more into that. And then also some other national and state level polling that instead of like having to go through all this process, I'm just going to screen share on my browser and show you what I see. All right. So yeah, I'm not sure that they bring in traffic through Rumble though on here. So that's one thing we got to make a note of when we're looking at numbers for Wirecast. That total is not going to be right because so many people would be watching on Rumble as opposed to YouTube, which we have to talk about right now. YouTube announced that they will be banning accounts that for medical information or to dealing with the vaccine. All right. And I know that's crap. That they will be really banning accounts that critically think about topic A. You can substitute vaccinations or anything. For vaccinations, I mean, you could substitute anyway, supplant any other topic that they don't like you talking about, election integrity, on and on and on. So that's why we did want to make sure we made the move to Rumble. It'll always be on Odyssey. And of course, this is why we made Locals, a Locals community. People's Pundit's right there, peoplespundit.locals.com, because this is going to continue until somebody does something legally about this persecution. This is not about misinformation, because if it was, then Salon and Joe Biden's Twitter accounts would be banned right now. The White House live feed would be taken down like legislative hearings are taken down for lying about vaccination data and lying about every other damn topic that is at the tip of their mouth on any 24-hour news cycle. Like Salon, yes, just this morning, actually, not yesterday, just this morning, about it's time to punish Trump supporters for being unvaccinated. That is not who makes up the sum total of the unvaccinated population. Salon, what? Copies and pastes everything that is sent out through the press office at the White House? That's why their public relations campaign was a failure. And after the hearing yesterday with Afghanistan, I'm starting to believe these failures are semi-intentional. Like, they don't really know what's going to happen. They don't really know the effect, the full effect of their screw-ups, but that they know they're doing the wrong thing when they do it. Like running commercials in between the deadliest catch and NASCAR. If you are my viewer, you know we have beaten the CDC. We have beaten the Kaiser Foundation like drums. We are way ahead of them. They are struggling to keep up with the information we put out. I have to wait weeks for them to confirm what we tell you ahead of time. There is no way the White House does not know that these things that they say are false. There is no way that someone at YouTube doesn't know that the things they say are false. Something that's a conspiracy theory or misinformation 60 days ago is now common knowledge. Let's not forget that the lab leak was a conspiracy theory. Was once a conspiracy theory. Hundreds of thousands of samples later, and they still don't have a connection to prove natural origin. So this is obviously only a matter of time. Obviously. Because no matter what you do, you will never be able to stay ahead of them on what's misinformation. Telling the country that the Russian collusion scam was a fraud was once misinformation. Mm-hmm. This is never about misinformation. This is about narrative.
Amen.
This is about convincing people.
Preach it.
One side is right, the other side is ignorant and stupid. The unvaccinated and hesitant may not really be political, but they're going to make it political. And when it comes to the work we do, it's just going to be impossible to... Why? Because we started this thing to tell the truth. Going back to the election projection model, that's what it was all about. I got tired of these crooked scumbag cabal leaders lying to everybody all the time. I got tired of Larry Sabato, not moving Arkansas from leans Democrat to leans Republican when we all knew that Tom Cotton was going to crush Mark Pryor. And I have a million examples of that. And that has been the guiding principle of this movement. It's not just a business. I have been trying to get these people to evolve. That some things have to be sacred. Financial reporting, data journalism. It cannot be raped and molested by politics. Some things have to be pure. They have to remain pure. And people who do them as a profession have to remain impartial. Whether they like it or not. Whether their fans like it or not. This hive mind, groupthink, drone mentality never survives. No society, no civilization can ever survive like that. Individualism, free thinking, and critical thinking literally leaped civilization of mankind, humankind, whatever, thousands of years in a couple hundred. I'm at awe of the Roman aqueducts. Don't get me wrong. I'm at awe of the Egyptian pyramids. Don't get me wrong. But modern civilization, as we know it, was 5,000 years old, or as the history books know it, was 5,000 years old until this country and its principles came along, and then we exploded as a human race. Do you understand? Exploded. We left the planet and stepped on our moon. We created engineering marvels the world has never seen. We beat every hive mind superpower hegemon around the world at everything. We did not do that by mimicking their groupthink hive mind idiocy.
That's what made them weak.
That's what made them weak. Our individualism, our ability to use our reason, and our faith in something bigger than us made us better than them. Better. That's right. Better.
But they know.
And what we're facing now, they do know it. And what we're facing, what we're facing now is a threat to all of that. If you can't speak freely and you can't question authority, you're not American. You are anti-American. Because that's what this was all about, baby. That's what this was all about. You may be godless, but you can't argue with the history of this country. Religious people came here because they didn't like authority. Because they didn't want to listen to them anymore. Because they felt they had a right to live the way they wanted to live. And no damn man was going to tell them otherwise because they had something bigger than that man. And they credited him for the gift of reason to know he exists. And to know what he wants from you. And I'm not trying to turn this into a religious sermon, but it really is inseparable, as Washington said. Indispensable supports. Why? Why are religion and morality indispensable supports to a republic, to a free society? Because it'll go up without morality, it'll go off the rails. You'll get tiny crystal balls and a bunch of hacks willing to shill for anything. Because they don't have morality. And without a belief in something at least bigger than you, you replace that hole in your heart with the worship of the garbage creations of men. Like they are doing with COVID right now. Public health. Science. This is anti-science. These policies are anti-science. To remove somebody from the public space because they question authority. Because they practice the very thing you claim to worship. This is all very anti-American. All of it. And I believe you me, I am no damn Bible thumper. Right?
You're a Christian.
Not a very good one. I try.
Nobody's a person.
Nobody's a good one.
If that was the case,
but I think what they were getting at the core was that you had to believe in something bigger than you. And they like, you know, and I'm not getting into things here, guys. I mean, I'm sure some of you have your own theories about certain societies, but an architect, which is the word and creator they used a lot, because You can't expect men to preserve the rights that you were unwilling to give up in the social compact. See, we're all in a state of nature. Do we have to go back to like Locke 101? We're all in a state of nature. And at some point we gave up. We were willing to give up some of the wild rights for a more safe society, but there are some that cannot be taken away. And in a social compact or social contract, we didn't. As Americans, we did not. And that is the difference between us and everybody else. That's why the Australians are being shot in their back right now while they protest and are running away from police because they don't want a vaccine mandate.
But there is...
Go ahead, you want to say something?
Yes, but there has to be an accountability to a higher power
something. Yeah,
in order to keep us in check.
That's right. Right.
If you're being accountable to your peer, who is that peer to you?
Or if
it's an equal.
And if you expect an equal to preserve one of your inalienable rights for you, it's impossible.
It's foolish.
If they don't come from a higher power and they're like some kind of then they're not an inalienable right, folks. By definition, they're a privilege to speak freely, to critically think, to defend yourself, to guard yourself against unwarranted search and seizure. All down the line. If they come from government, it's not a right, it's a privilege. It has nothing to do with being a Bible thumper. If we have to rely on YouTube to preserve the First Amendment for us, then we don't deserve it.
Stop being lazy.
So this thing didn't start, and we had this conversation as a community about 2 weeks ago, or more than that now. This thing did not start as some water-carrying, evolving information channel that's going to, bend to the will of any cabal, man-made anything. This is the true law over here. And I'm just not going to do it. It's not only a matter, even if I wanted to, I don't feel like it's sustainable. Because I just laid out 10 minutes ago a slew of things that 6 months ago to 4 years ago were conspiracy theories, that misinformation, and that are true. We really needed to wait 4.5 years with the indictment of Sussman to find out that all that was garbage. 4 years ago, if they continued on the kick they're on now, what's to say YouTube wouldn't decide, I'm just going to ban anybody who questions Russia collusion? It's misinformation. I'm going to ban it. I got news for you. It's nothing to do with misinformation. They don't give a damn if misinformation harms anybody. Misinformation led to the shooting of Steve Scalise and 4 other individuals. It's just a fact. Misinformation led to the burning of Ferguson. Misinformation led to the burning of a half a dozen major U.S. cities in the summer of 2020. They don't give a damn about any of that. They don't care. It's about narrative and being able to question authority. And if we're no longer able to question authority, then what the hell is this all for?
Then we're being ruled.
Then that's it.
That's the definition of being
ruled. It
ruled.
is. And by the way, for all you anti-fascists who wouldn't shut the hell up under the 4 years of Donald Trump when you were pointing out fake fascism, open your eyes.
It's right in front of your face.
Yeah. Maybe shut your mouth and listen a little bit better. This is fascism. This is real fascism. The economic definition of fascism.
Actually,
the blending, not the public ownership, but the blending of the private and public sector with the private sector subservient to the party in power in the public sector. And they control capital. They control. And Labor's next. Labor's here. The vaccination mandate is fascist control of labor. It's a fantastic and convenient way to purge the U.S. military. So soon you will be removed for pointing out or simply asking the question of why hundreds and hundreds of healthcare workers are willing to sacrifice their livelihood. It will be a sin against their religion to include a table about adverse effects in our questionnaire. It will be a sin, especially because we're going to come back with something vastly different from what we're being told. Vastly different. Speaking of which, I want to point something out to you. There are two problems with polling the issue of vaccination mandates with media and university polls. Two. One is wording. Wording meaning they stick to the approved narrative. They poll the buzzwords. They poll the approved terminology. Terminology that is explicitly designed to hide the consequence of this policy. The real world consequence. And I want to show you the difference between, I'm going to get mine up before I show you Roberts as well. What is late summer? We did that, I believe. Here we go. Support of vaccine mandates by employment status, by education. Here we go. Yeah, I'm just, look, I told you, I am what I am, Popeye said. I am what I am. And that's all there is to it. And I don't know how to be anything different, all right, other than someone who is forced every day he wakes up into an effort to the narrative, the fake narrative that has been woven for you, that has been spun for you on a daily basis. That is my life. That is my life. They're full of shit. Let's go tell people what really is going on. I just don't know how to do anything different. Here is how we ask the question. Pull up mine, and then we're going to pull up Roberts, and I'm going to explain to you all the difference. Okay? Here we go. Do you support or oppose each of the following measures regarding the coronavirus vaccine? All right. And then we listed a bunch of them. Obviously, this one's titled Support for Employer Vaccination Mandates by Education. This is a chart. I actually thought it was a crosstab, but I can go to the crosstab in a second to show you my point. And this is how we stated it after employer mandates. Yeah, you use this term, the buzzword, employer mandates. Mm-hmm. Well, of course. I mean, it's just irresponsible for employers to allow their places of business to become super spreaders pads. Can't let those. Look, this one's got a star on his jacket right here. We can't let that dangerous person spread it all over through the rest of us. It's designed to remove the consequences, the real world. What are the consequences from an employer mandate? Well, the very first one, of course, right, is that somebody loses their freaking livelihood. So we phrased it, allowing employers to fire employees for not taking the vaccine. As you can see, when you do that, it completely collapses. And I'm going to show you, just so everybody understands, we were slightly in favor. We were slightly in favor of this. Requiring everyone to carry a vaccine passport before they're allowed to participate in pre-pandemic activities. We, in the very general media-approved buzzword, vaccine passports, we actually did find slight support until you get more specific, until this little buzzword falls apart and people hear about the consequences. And then things are very different. 21.3% strongly support what is the real deal about an employer mandate. 18.4% somewhat support. 16.1% somewhat oppose, and 38% strongly oppose. You can clearly see which side is the intensity on. Oppose. Strongly oppose. If this was an intensity index, it'd be negative 17. A majority oppose allowing employers to fire their employees if they do not take the coronavirus vaccine. It would be extremely difficult for me to manipulate these results to find the outrageous margins that we are seeing in favor of employer mandates. Even if we just gave the generic wording, it is plus passport, plus more, kind of these mandates. It's plus mandate by only a few points, and it doesn't get to a majority. But I don't want to leapfrog into the second, because this is two-pronged, why these polls are so bad. And they're intentionally bad. They know why they know what they are doing is skewing the result. At this point, I don't see how there's any other explanation. They're doing it on purpose. I mean, it's 101, Laura. It's 101. You don't poll what CNN tells you to poll. It's supposed to be impartial. And we wanted to show you the difference between the media-approved terminology and the actual real-world consequences. And we did that here. By the way, the story is the same, even if you keep going to, schools. Look at that. 55 oppose, denying access to restaurants. 50 oppose. That one was actually one of the closer ones, but it was still oppose plus 8. And on and on and on and on and on. All right. Now I'm going to kill this real quick. I could look at the crosstab to show you different groups, but I'm going to kill this real quick, and I'm going to show you the other one from Robert. All right. Share the screen. And I don't want to show too much. I don't want to show any personal information here, but okay. Do you believe Americans should lose their jobs if they object to taking the vaccine? Again, this is how you properly ask the question. 83.5% of, and let me go to my, cancel crosstabs. Let me go to mine because I'm going to show you partisanship was not all that different when you do it right. Okay. They were not, it really wasn't. It wasn't all that different. We did not find this incredible difference when we looked at party. Where are you, party detail? There you are. So before I get into telling them, and they could see it, but all right. Where's the vaccine? Here's employees. I don't know why it keeps doing that. Probably because the database is so damn big at this point. All right. In Robert's polling, you can see 47.9% of Democrats said they don't, which means they support a vaccine mandate even when given the consequences. 38.4% did. I said that backwards. 47.9% of Democrats do not believe Americans should lose their jobs if they object to taking the vaccine. Far less than the 83.5% of Republicans, but still nothing like the media and university polls when you just use the generic term. You know what? Media-approved terminology. That is the best way to explain what they do. Media-approved terminology. And by what should you invoke? What should that invoke when I say it? They are intentionally trying to mask something negative about these policies. They're trying to make them seem responsible, but they are masking the negative consequences that may not be very palatable to American voters. Mm-hmm. Such as, do you really want your neighbor to lose their freaking livelihood because they object to taking the coronavirus vaccine? And the more responsible way of doing it is like what Robert and I did. Do you believe Americans should lose their jobs if they object to taking the vaccine? That is the way to ask the damn question. Ours. Allow employers to fire employees for not taking the vaccine? You see the similarity here? And then Democrats, 38.4% did say they believe that, 9.7% of Republicans compared to. Okay. And then a pretty big don't know for Democrats and Republicans. All right. With us, when it comes to the employer mandate, we found allowing employers to fire. We actually did find 30 point, let me just do it in my head, 30.2%. So for every about 3 in 10 of Democrats opposed allowing employers to fire their employees for not taking it. However, I mean, 64 plus 70, 70.6, so almost 71% of Republicans objected, 61% of independents objected, and 62% of independents, and 62% of third-party voters opposed. So very much, I mean, Democrats are half of independents, but it still was a significant chunk. And that brings me to the second part of why these polls are always wrong. It's who they poll. It is their representation. Bill Kristol endorsed Terry McAuliffe for governor of Virginia. But does Bill Kristol represent Republican voters in the state of Virginia? Well, what if Bill Kristol, like Republicans, were 20% of your Republican sample? You think you're going to have a problem? And if that's the case, how much more liberal will your Democratic sample be? How much more liberal to moderate will your independent sample be? Waiting for a region can have an enormous impact on the results of these kinds of questions. You are reaching much, much more liberal audience. And that is what people like Fox News are notorious for. Right? If I only polled the areas Fox News polled, I could probably get close to 70% of support for a vaccine mandate too. But that's not reality, which is why Fox News sucks. Which is why Fox News actually had Biden ahead in Ohio for most of the year. Until they heard it at the very end and gave like Trump a 2-point lead or something. Mm-hmm. Ridiculous. That's why the New York Times and Quinnipiac had Biden either tied or leading in Iowa. 5 points ahead in Ohio. 11 points ahead in Pennsylvania. 6 points ahead in North Carolina. 6 points ahead in Florida. That's why the New York Times had Andrew Gillum. It's the same fundamental problem. If you speak to independents in metro areas, you will not get the correct margin for independents. You will not gauge the sentiment of independents correctly. Why? Because in the areas you didn't poll, they're more conservative. And by the way, the same is true for the Democratic Party. That's why you see 2%, 3%, tiny little numbers in Fox News polls and Quinnipiac. Do you disapprove of Joe Biden? 2%, 3%, 5%. It's crazy. He has now cracked low double digits. So it is two-pronged. One, the wording of their questions suck. Two, the very same reasons why they cannot poll an election are the same reasons that could badly, badly skew the results of a question like this. All right. Now, what time is it? What is it, 11:34? So let me just say, I'm glad Trafalgar polled this. It looks like he was, just so everybody knows, he was, who is this for? The Convention of States hired him to do this. And I'm damn glad they did. Because I know for a fact that Robert is big on representation of certain voters. And without a doubt, that is why him and I are so much more accurate than everybody else. It's that simple. I know it's not really simple when you get into the numbers, but the broad strokes of it, folks, are simple. And they are doing it on purpose. Why do I say that? Because How many more elections do they have to buff? You shouldn't weigh in on these things. This is a liberty issue we're talking about here. Who the hell are you? You haven't polled. Stay in your lane. Poll a few elections quietly while you retool whatever it may be. Your likely voter screen, your entire methodology. I don't give a damn. Make sure you're worth the profession you chose. Make sure you're trustworthy of it. But they don't care about any of that because they're ethically and morally bankrupt. And they're doing it on purpose. They're doing it for the same reason that YouTube is banning people for critically thinking about whatever topic it may be today. Now it's vaccines. What? Last month it was masks. Months before it was school closures. Months, in November and beyond, it was election integrity. They're just dictating to us whatever they think we should be allowed to talk about. Not me, man. Not me. I just can't do it. It's too dangerous. To me, it's too freaking dangerous. Who the hell are you? Who the hell do you think you are? You want to be able to, then don't operate a public space. Don't operate a public space. There should be like a First Amendment test for these people. And I'm not just talking about what the pen and paper, black and white, what's in the articles of the year, It's in, repeat Amendment 1 to me of the Bill of Rights. I'm talking about origin, foundation, philosophical foundation. Where does it come from? Why? Who's it really meant to protect? I don't know what Republicans were thinking. 2 years. 2 years. Full control.
Well, they jacked it up. They
2
did
years.
Nothing.
They did nothing.
And now that's why we're suffering with this moron.
There is one, and by the way, where do you think it's so horrible what's happening in Australia? You really think we're that far off of you out of your damn minds? We're right there.
Right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
Promise.
That's right. Promise you that.
I can promise you that. Let's say Laura
She's
promises.
100% right. There has been one leader in this country that has spoken out against these are atrocities. To gun down. First, Australia, they took your guns. So you couldn't even fight back if you wanted, could you? What are you going to do? Pick up a surfboard and hit them with it? You airheads!
I forgot to tell you. I got video clips sent to me of the police.
Well, let me vet them first before we do anything.
No, it was an interview. The police are going door to door. It's a video live feed of knocking on the door, asking them if they were in a protest.
Oh,
or
yes,
they
it's an
intend
investigation.
to
They intend
protest.
to, yeah, that is, why didn't we get that? I would have loved for that for this segment.
Sorry.
That's all right. It's all right.
Okay.
We'll show them on Friday.
Mhm.
After I make a call about who it came from. But I do want, obviously, more information on it. But, you give up your guns. And now look at you. Fleeing like a bunch of runaway slaves trying to get away from your master. Shot in the back, unarmed. I had a black cat, sergeant. Called them black cats. One time, I'll never forget. He's like, the worst thing you could do is die on your face running in the other direction. You could get shot, so what? Run backward, squeezing off the rounds, he told us.
Amen.
Nothing more dishonorable than falling on your face with a bullet in your back. Murdered by your own state for protesting a mandate. By the way, they had unions that sold them out too. And then they went nuts when they stabbed the unions in the back. Just like they shot the unarmed protesters in the back. Because they didn't expect for rules to apply to them. That they wanted to push on the rest of the public. And we have that same problem here, ladies and gentlemen. And I will show you that right now. I'm serious. We have the same problem. Unions. Let's look at unions. Oh, this is good. Good stuff. Close the editors. Allowing employers to fire employees for not taking the vaccine. Oh, this is rich right here. I'm serious. Because there really were only a very few groups that we found that were in favor of this. One of them was the rich. Rich people. Rich with post-grads were the most in favor of it. And then there were, of course, certain unions. Oh, that is very difficult for you guys to see, isn't it? Zoom in. Zoom in. Okay. Yeah, because that's clipped right at the bottom there. Union overall, and we'll look at union type in a second. Are you a union? Yes. 32.3% strongly support versus no, only 20%. Somewhat support, 22.6% versus no at 17.8%. So clearly, not only is it not a majority, it's barely able to get over a third when it's not a unionized population. But when it is a union population, it's a majority. 54.9. Isn't that funny? Since they'll be the ones who think like the Australian idiots, who thought that they would get an exemption. But that didn't happen for them, now did it? Union type. And by the way, Postal Service, you got the same screw, didn't you? Didn't you? You ran all those ballots for him for nothing. No extra special treatment. No courtesy. All right. Public union. Very interesting. 31.2%. Public being, this is a government union. There are two types of unions. Somebody in the locals community was brilliant. Peoplespundit.locals.com. Peoplespundit.locals.com.
Well done.
They were brilliant to say, Rich, is there any way we can tell whether these are privately owned, private unions, private sector? Let's say steel workers, auto workers versus public unions, which could be, which are public meaning government guys, which are much more liberal. All right, every government job now, right? If you're at a certain level, everything from state to federal, even though Roosevelt opposed, by the way, public unions. Mr. Progressive opposed public sector unions vehemently because he did not believe that we should let them have the power to collectively bargain. He did not believe that government and unionization was compatible, would be controllable. He believed it'd be a poison on the system, and he was right. Anyway, 31.2% of public unions strongly support versus 30.7% of private and 46% of people who have both. So they're both household with two, both private and public. That's the most agreeable. If they're public, they're slightly more than private to say strongly support. But the somewhat support is where it separates a little bit. Public 25.7% somewhat support it versus the private union, which is only 17.1%. So private unions actually are damn near tied. You have, 48.8% that are combined opposed in the private sector union population versus 47.8%. So private unions are actually opposed +1 on employer mandates versus a much different result in the public sector union, which is about 40 opposed to 56 support. So, I mean, it's a big difference. And then if you have a household with private and public, 66% support employer vaccinations and 24.1% oppose it. Big margin. Why? These are people who thought they were going to get around this. Many of these people thought they would get around it. And we know that from the backlash now. They just haven't taken to the streets to line up to get shot in their backs yet. And the reason why that is so easy, I will again reiterate. The reason why it is so easy for the Australian government to abuse their so-called citizens, we need to stop using that word. When it comes to other countries, the United States invented the idea of citizenship. Everywhere else in the old world is a subject. You are a subject. The level of personhood is not the same.
No.
You do not have inalienable rights. You do not have the social contract that people in the United States of America share, which is why it is such an insult to allow unfettered immigration. We fought and bled for this relationship between the state and the individual. And it is something that has never been seen in the history of human civilization. There was never really a Roman citizen. It meant you were a Roman, and it meant you had certain rights. But it does not. But our founders did base it off, well, you know what? At one time, the Roman Republic had a very different relationship between the state and the individual. Where did that go wrong? Where could we improve? Because they loved history, unlike modern Americans, right? They loved history. And they thought, where can we improve on this concept of citizenship and what it means? And how can we preserve it? To just simply give away the status of American citizen is a disgrace to those who came before us. You disgrace their names. You spit on their graves. Not even spit. You pull your pants down and take a dump on their graves. That's what you did.
Pretty much. And then to say that they're citizens, no.
And
see, the other places, it's subject for a reason. You are subjected
to their will.
Another
to their will.
will.
That's right.
Not your own will.
Yes, right.
Another person.
We haven't had the Hobbesian relationship between the individual and the state since the colonization pre-revolution. And the reason why it was so easy for the Australian government to abuse their so-called citizens like that is because they don't have the right to defend themselves. They don't have the right nor the means to defend themselves. So they just simply got steamrolled. They got steamrolled. They were so civilized that they were willing to give up their right and their ability to defend themselves. Look at you now.
Don't you wish you could go back?
Don't you? You went from Crocodile Dundee to Pinky in the Air, and now look at you. As they used to say on the street, lay it out. Look at you now.
Look at you now.
All up. And if you think we're that far away, you're nuts.
I'm telling you, make that right.
You are living. You are living in a fantasy world. A fantasy world. And I got news for you. At this point, this is why there is nothing but clampdown coming. I'm not talking about shutdown, COVID shutdown. I'm talking about a clampdown, a persecution. Why? They don't have any other moves. They don't have any other moves. They're not legitimate. Let's say, hey, look, that's not my opinion. That's my assessment based on what voters tell us and research. They don't have legitimacy. They don't have capital. They had one issue that they could tout with this man, and they don't even have it anymore. Even Reuters is negative on COVID now. Reuters, Ipsos, whatever, who conducts it for them. And they conduct other people's polls too. They're kind of like YouGov. So, barring any political capital or legitimacy, what other choice does a regime have to ensure coercion? Police force. Police power. And I don't mean that by your local police. I mean it's a term for government power. Coercion by force. By mandate. By the enforcement of mandate. They have no other card to play. Less than a year in and this is over. Any other traditional presidency, this is over. You could see the trouble they're having this week. We're now Wednesday. They'll cave in Congress, but not because Joe Biden has political capital. They'll cave because the media played up the what's at stake. Is what I'm trying to say. And when things, if and when things go horribly wrong, what they were saying, they weren't talking to certain, Republicans, and they were saying to those 19 Republicans, they'll string you up too.
Mm-hmm.
And those, because they'll see you as traitors. They'll see you as cowards, and they'll string you up too with the rest of us. They're saying to Sinema and Manchin, this will be on you. If this presidency fails, it will be on you. And nobody will ever forgive you. That's what they're doing. Nobody gives a damn about a phone call from Joe Biden anymore. Joe Biden has now thrice, not twice, thrice tried to bribe Joe Manchin, including with giving his wife a job. I kid you not. I kid you not. Kind of like how Trump bribed Mitch McConnell, by the way. Just going to say, hey, it's out there. It's true. It's reality. Which I would not have done. I'd give him his walking papers. That's what I would have done,
I think, honestly, what Trump should have just done was clean house. Wipe out everybody and start.
He could have taken out Paul Ryan as speaker. I don't know if he would have been able to remove Mitch McConnell. Not right away.
Well, not right away, but when the first emergency arose.
Yeah, well, he could have tried. Look, he could still take them out by making them unwelcome and drying up their fundraising. Mm-hmm. So Trump could have sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Why on earth he partnered with some of these groups is just beyond me. And by the way, I'm still getting text messages from them.
I know.
Pretending to be Donald Trump, asking for money. I just got one this morning.
Unsubscribed 10 times.
It doesn't even matter.
No.
It really, there is some, and you know this from even the consumer and the voter records. There are a lot of exemptions for these privacy rules, like the do not call list, for instance, and mailing lists for emails. They have exceptions if they're political purposes. So that's why sometimes you guys are like, I unsubscribed. Well, they gave your name to 10 other people already. Mm-hmm. So some other entity is just going to do it, and they can. So PII doesn't pertain to them. When it comes to the do not call list, you may have registered and put yourself on the do not call list, but in a bunch of states, folks, that doesn't matter for me. I could still call you and poll you. I'm exempt from that. I can't tell you how many people pick up the phone and tell the interviewers or the IVR, I'm on the do not call list.
And you say good.
We just say, that's great. We're exempt. Doesn't matter. I'm sorry. I don't know if you knew this, sir or ma'am, but this does not prevent us from calling you. You don't like it? Move to a more strict state. Indiana. Michigan. Indiana's a pain in the butt.
Indiana is. But good for them.
Yeah. I mean, look, what is it? Can't post comments to some destinations. I was just trying to, I don't know, something's not taking. It could be because it's on Rumble now. I mean, Rumble doesn't post directly to that. Maybe what they mean. I don't know. Anybody on Rumble? You want to let me know how it's working? Anybody want to let me know how it's going?
It's going well.
If there's a bunch on Rumble, then we're doing pretty good today because it doesn't take traffic from Rumble. So the number I'm seeing right here, it's not including Rumble.
We have
Don't yell it out loud for crying out loud.
No, Rumble.
That's privy information until it goes up per live. But you know what I mean? You don't say stuff like that out loud that's not bad. Very first one. I didn't tweet it. This is what I'll start doing from now on. I'm going to ask the locals community. They'll probably just want Rumble, right? I mean, and how's the commenting though? Is it all right?
We're commenting.
Is it cool?
It's just plain. You just type
plain? Okay.
And if you're in a conversation with someone, they're talking to you.
I know why Allison did Rockfin, because they have super chats on
Oh,
Rockfin.
you got a super chat here.
Oh, there's a Rumble has it too.
Rumble rant, they're called.
Cool. And thank you for that, by the way.
Tone was the first one. He said,
It's
"Here,
hard to
Rich."
follow you guys all, so thank you, though. You know.
He said, "Have your first Rumble rant. Thanks for all the
Oh!
hard work and good information you put in the world."
Thank you. Thank you. We very much appreciate that. And soon there'll be, for locals communities, there'll be like a locals thing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
We're going to do some work today to try to like consolidate all of this. What I'm trying to build, and so far I haven't been able to find anybody who can do it, but I want peoplespundit.tv.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that's what's going to replace People's Pundit Daily. There's just no point with Google being. I probably should sue Google for the look.
Be at it for a
Here's
while,
the problem with what they did. If they had a legitimate beef with me, they would have just removed me from the index because we were Google News, fact checks, whatever, structured data for all of it. They would have had a beef and they would have removed me. We followed the trust indicators. We put up, we did everything post 2016 that they demanded for affiliates. And it still didn't seem to have any benefit. And there was a major difference, we could tell. And then somebody leaked it to us. And there were internal memos that just basically said, we don't want these people to get exposure. So so in the end, this is what the plan was. In a way to, you got to evolve. You got to evolve. When your enemy comes at you, Sun Tzu, I'm not going to get into it. You got to be able to adapt and overcome. And so I'm looking for a native comment system on peoplespundit.tv, which will be People's Pundit Daily. We're going to change it up. They'll still redirect. If you were to type in the original, it's going to redirect to peoplespundit.tv. But I basically want someone to build for People's Pundit the origin of where it goes out to all the social media sites. So we'll still restream it or whatever else everywhere. But we want them to be able to import. So if you're on YouTube and you're commenting, it's still going to import into peoplespundit.tv and you'll see it. If you're on Rumble, it'll import. There's APIs for all of this. It's doable. That's how StreamYard did it. That's how even Restream, they have their collective comments. And in the end, I want a native platform where we have home base. It's home base. And, some things, basically, even locals. You do it with locals, too. Mm-hmm. I mean, they'll have an API. Right? So it's right now, though, I'm not able to. Royal, coming at you. I see it. I saw what you said. I'll drop it right now. Drop it like it's hot, Laura says. I'm just going to put it in all of them. I thought I did it right, but then I just noticed. Here's the Rumble link. Booyah. There you go, guys. All right. So it's coming. It just went to Facebook. And now it went out to YouTube. Okay. So you got it, Royal. All right. It should be there. And the last one. Yeah. Yeah, I have to agree. He made some really crappy decisions. All right. But anyway, it is 11:59. We're going to take a real quick break. And when we come back, we will go over, like I said yesterday on one of the odds, I want to go over the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index a little bit. There were some things that I didn't get into that are, I think, really important. And for locals, I'll get that link out to you. Oh, no, I did that yesterday. Never mind. Check out my feed, and you'll see it there. All right. It's there. Yeah, all right. I just forget. I'm just like, sometimes I'm just like a robot. No. And I'm just like, work. And
my favorite is when he tells me something while he's working, and then he tells me it again while he's working. And then he'll get up and make a cup of coffee. I go, da-da-da-da. He goes, how'd you know? I'm like,
you just said it twice, you idiot.
I love you.
Let's see. Yeah, that's definitely me.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah. I dumped the Rumble link. I also put on the feed on locals yesterday what we're going to go over after the break, which will be more on the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. But I'd also like to talk some about the national polling we didn't get into. This is not getting the coverage that it should be getting because this is, again, going back to what I was saying before, and it's sad. It's sad for consumers because they're not getting worthwhile analysis. They're getting media-approved garbage. And there is something pretty monumental happening right now, and nobody's talking about it. They're just not talking about it. All right. So to me, I'm so glad cdm.press. You can check out all the results on creativedestructionmedia.com, which is cdm.press. It'll redirect you there. I'm glad they wanted to do Georgia because I wanted in a way to see whether I saw the same thing in Georgia with certain groups, their views towards Biden, how they were going to vote in the generic ballot, in the Senate race, whatever it may be. Governor's race, I'm not, surprised that was a little bit different. Tip O'Neill said all politics is local, and it is no more true that saying than in gubernatorial races. So nowhere is it more true than in gubernatorial races because governorships can often buck the trend of the state preference when it comes to national office and other stuff. Sometimes it really can be hyper local. All right, so I wanted to see if I saw some of those trends, same trends that I saw in the national polling in Georgia. And when we come back, we'll take a deeper look into that. First, the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index. Then we'll get a deeper look into that. All right, I'm going to do a, 2.5 minute. Don't go nowhere. I'll be right back.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker, so just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
And take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Yeah. All right, we're back. Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Follow me on Getter now, at People's Pundit. Follow me on Twitter still, at People's_Pundit. Look, YouTube is YouTube. YouTube is going to YouTube. If you want to, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Still subscribe. Definitely. We can take all the subscriptions we can get, and hit that thumbs up hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we're going to go live. But now, People's Pundit is on Rumble, streaming live to Rumble, which you can check out as well. All right. But the best way, of course, to follow us is at peoplespundit.locals.com, which you will get information like we're about to look at now. I don't know why I didn't get up. Oh, yes, that's right. I do know why I didn't get it up on the break. Every time I go to this, you know it's true, though. Every time I go to this coffee pot, there's no water in it, man.
I need a river that leads to your ocean.
You hear? She's so very supportive. All right, let's look at the Georgia one first. All right, and actually, before I bring that up, all right, I know I had it still uploaded here. Let's do a real quick recap of what we did find in Georgia. Kemp, 49.7, which, you know, you can round up to 50 if you're doing so. Approve to 42.6 total, disapprove. So Kemp bout +7. Okay. However, take a brief look at the partisanship of that. You will notice that more than 1 in 4 of his own party can't stand the guy, while you have about a third of Democrats claiming to approve of him, when we all know that once they have their candidate, they will not vote for Brian Kemp. So Brian Kemp, as of right now, I will say to you definitively cannot win re-election. Okay, he will lose. Yet, when we polled the Republican primary, we did see him still way ahead in the little over about 57%, I believe it was, to Vernon Jones, who was just under 15%. However, when we poll with Donald Trump's endorsement, then the situation changes dramatically. Vernon Jones shoots to over 40%. Brian Kemp collapses to the low 30s. So Brian Kemp would lose the primary if Donald Trump endorsed Vernon Jones. However, the same is not true if Brian Kemp gets Donald Trump's endorsement. There are many Trump voters, Trump supporters, who would ignore the former president. That's just a fact. Brian Kemp does move up a little bit, but Vernon Jones actually goes to a little bit higher. So it's just not enough. For Vernon Jones, Donald Trump's endorsement's worth about 50 points. For Brian Kemp, it's only worth like 3. So, I mean, it really goes to show you where the Republican Party is in Georgia. All right. All right. And I did want to get to the registered voter economic confidence index. But first, before we get to that, let me just show you what I see in the Senate race. And instead of using the graphic I made, which may be actually a little bit smaller for you to read, I'm going to pull up the crosstabs, zoom in a little bit. Okay, bear with me. There it is. If you remember our polling from January 5th, or the January 5th race, the problem Republicans had was a regional issue. They could not gather enough of their own party base in these areas to be able to let me just see how good can you see it here. Actually, not bad. Okay, no, not bad at all. You probably see it better here, even though it's not all the way wide. You probably see it better here than you would if I would have shared the crosstabs on the screen. All right, but Purdue, Loeffler, they were losing the burbs, and you really, as a Republican, need to make up what you're going to lose in the metro area. And if you lose the burbs, it doesn't mean you're going to lose, but you need to run up the margins in central and the coastal south of Florida. All right, I mean of Georgia, excuse me. You have Savannah there and some other southeastern counties that are trending Democrat because there are some suburbs there. And the bottom line is Brian Kemp, the first time around, was able to squeeze enough out of rural Georgia to win, but he wouldn't this time, which is what would make him lose. This is the Senate race, though. And if you remember our polling that showed Purdue and Loeffler down, central Georgia was a problem. First of all, not many of them wanted to vote, all right? But second of all, it was like 7% or something. But second of all, the margin was much closer, and that wasn't a matter of vote preference in the overall region. It was a matter of the likely voter screen. Here, that's not a problem. So when it comes for Herschel Walker, he does not have the problem that Purdue and Loeffler had. In the north, which is the more moderate area of Georgia, he's crushing Warnock 53.3 to 29.4. In the burbs, he's leading Warnock rounded by about 2 points, 46 to 44.5. Well, actually, if you were to round both first, it would be about 1 point. But that is more than really what he needs to do. He could lose the burbs if he still had the margin in these other areas that he has. And in the Atlanta metro area, he's creeping up on 30% of the vote, and Warnock's at 58.2. All right, here's where it really is what it comes down to. In central Georgia, he's winning 51.4% compared to Warnock, who's at 33.8. In the coast and the southern region, this was a major problem area for Perdue and Loeffler when it came to turnout. He's beating Warnock 49 to 35 if we round. All right, that's a big deal. That is how Stacey Abrams got so close to Brian Kemp. It wasn't only the metro area that came out in droves, which they did. So the idea of voter suppression in Georgia is ludicrous. It's a ludicrous idea that is not backed up by actual data. It is a talking point that fuels racial division for the sole purpose of getting the Democratic Party votes. It is not true. Turnout, especially among African Americans in Georgia, has increased, which is probably why they support more strict election reforms. Because they don't see the problem that white liberals keep telling them they have. So anyway, it's a major, major deal, guys. It's a big deal. The bottom line is here, Walker's ahead. And he's ahead by a pretty significant... Now, it's early. It is early, and I'll grant you that. But he's ahead by a pretty significant margin. It would be difficult. It's not impossible, but it would be difficult for Walker to lose this race at this point. He's going to win the Republican primary, hands down. That's absolutely going to happen. And Warnock's got a race on his hands. Democrats have a problem. They also trail in the generic ballot, by the way, by almost roughly the same margin. The difference is there are more undecideds, and there are different groups of voters supporting Walker than we see voting Republican. Walker gets less crossover. More crossover support. And he has solidified his base more than Republican congressional candidates at this point. And by the way, more than Donald Trump. All right. There are but at this point, it may also be true that like a rematch kind of thing. Republicans who told us they voted for Joe Biden, and we know they now disapprove of Joe Biden at a pretty significant rate. So it's voters' remorse, basically is what I'm saying. All right, let me bring up the Labor Day poll. I got Everviz up here. Actually, Everviz would be the better way to do this. Bear with me 1 second here, guys. All right, because I really want to get to this registered voter economic confidence index. It's depressing. I'm not going to lie to you. But it's important to go over because I only touched on it yesterday. I didn't get a chance to look more, deeper into it. And that's what we do here on Inside the Numbers, right? Why is it, what is significant this go around? All right, let me see. Can I pull up the layout? I can just show them the different ones. Yeah, good. All right, let me share this screen with them. The one confidence index is still so low here. There we go. All right. There are typically, and just to give methodology background here, please assign a value please assign either a positive, neutral, or negative rating to reflect your perception for each of the following. And then there's current business conditions, current employment conditions. And this may sound familiar if you follow the CCI because it's very close. It just has to deal with registered voters juxtaposed to adults, all consumers. All right. And those two make up the present situation index for obvious reasons. They're indicators, sub-indicators of what's going on now, how you feel about right now when it comes to the economy in general and employment. And then the other three are expected business conditions, expected employment conditions, and expectations for total family income. All right. And those three make up the expectations index. It's a 6-month outlook. How do we do this? First, you have to get relative values, which I'll tell you about in a second. When we get those relative values for each of those sub-indicators, we then average them together. The first two that deal with right now, the here and now, that's the present situation. It's an average of those two sub-indicators. Add them together. What's the sum? Divide them by how many sub-indicators you have. 2, that's your present situation index. The future, because there are 3 sub-indicators, is the sum of the 3 divided by 3. And that's your expectations index. All right. And overall, what do you think the main index is? It's the future and the current divided by 5, because we have 5 total sub-indicator levels, and that of which are relative values, and that gives you the main index. Okay, here is the trend for the 3. All right, you have, this is the overall registered voter economic confidence index levels. Solid gold is the overall index, the main index. Okay, and 1 second here. Let me see if I can upgrade this so they can see it interactive. They can't though. All right, blue is expectations and red is present situation. Last month, in the month of August, and what's important is this is designed, the methodology behind this, relative values, it's designed not to be volatile. You should not be seeing wide swings. Outside the sampling error, yeah. But you don't want to see double or triple, the sampling error in volatility. It means there's something is going on here. But despite that design, it cratered last month. All right. In the month of in the summer, the index, the overall index was sitting at 57.7, even going back to June. It cratered almost 10 points to 48.6. And you can see that both of the sub-indexes fell, right? They're about equal in how much they dipped. And would there be a tick up going into Labor Day and after Labor Day? That is what we were really trying to see here. And while there was marginal gains from one month to the other, the fact of the matter is, folks, we just simply did not see that much of an improvement here. And I'm going to show you, this is going to give you an idea of why this is significant. Even though there wasn't that much of a change, it was marginal and within the sampling error, right? Doesn't really matter that there's a pickup here. Look at these are the 5 sub-indicator levels, the relative values for them. You can see that they barely moved, 44.8 to 45.8 for the current business conditions. Current employment increased from 42.2 to just 44. Again, all of which within the sampling error. 51.4 to 53.9 for business expectations, the 6-month outlook for the economy. 6-month outlook for the employment conditions barely moved. 54.2 to 55. This is even worse. Expectations for total family income, I mean, it moved 0.3 percentage point. No bueno. Why does this matter, though? Let's go all the way back to, well, actually, this is probably good enough. Let's go to tab 4. And when you look at tab 4, okay, current business conditions, 29.7% positive. Well, that's actually late spring, early summer. I'm trying to get a more clear 24.7. All right. But look at the neutral numbers. They're pretty big. All right. And last month, neutral was 43.1, moving now 41.1. What do you see happening here? The percentage of people who say they are neutral is shrinking, all right? And this latest month, which I'm not sure is even in the thing, is it? Let me see. Where do we got the most recent one? Here's the registered voter economic confidence index. Give me a second. Come on, wheels in the sky. Let's keep turning. All right. 41.1% positive, dipped again. That is that last month. I just wanted to make sure. 27% positive, and then negative increased again, all the way up to 31.9. All right. And just so to give you a real quick example of how you get a relative value, 27 plus 31.9. All right. That's your sum. You take positive and divide it by the sum. And then that's your relative value for that index. All right. That sub-indicator. I'm sorry. I don't want to confuse index with indicator. And then you get the index levels by averaging the relative values, which we went over before. What does this tell me? It tells me that people had been holding off. Americans, like I always say, and I said yesterday, they're forward thinkers, and they had been really reserving judgment to see whether or not the economy would bounce back and whether COVID would get under control because, of course, of how much it has impacted the economy. Under Donald Trump, this index would have been much higher. I'm just serious. We know that from what we do is try to compare what the CCI is showing and to see what the disparity is between all adults and registered voters. They also use 1985 as a baseline, which we don't. All right. It's that there are some slight differences with it. And what we're basically seeing, if we were to kind of do a regression or something, Trump's indexes would have started probably around like 80 or something like that. Close around, roughly around that. People expected things to get better. Oh my God.
I thought it was silent.
They expected some things, as long as they're relevant to the content of the show, is what I'm talking about. If they expected things to get better 6 months ago, now they're not. And it's worse than that. So for the increase that we see people telling us they have a positive view is being outpaced by the increase of negative. So what we're seeing evaporating out of the neutral view is disproportionately being added to negative. And that's why the index barely fluctuating is marginally increasing. At the very least, negative is keeping up with positive. And that's why the index didn't increase, even though there were far more people this month willing to say they had a view about it. That sucks, because that means views are hardening, and they're hardening negative. If they would have hardened, then we would have seen the indexes increase. That would have been very good, but we're not seeing that. The sad reality is that total family income is a real gut punch, because for 4 years people were feeling really good about the growth of their wages. The personal income and outlays report from the Bureau of Economic Analysis backed it up. Why would they feel that good about it? Well, because wages and salaries, the component for personal income that we really care about, because they include government assistance in personal income and outlay reports. I'm not kidding. But wages and salaries were the main driver for the increase in personal income under Donald Trump, not SNAP, like we saw under Obama. Much of the increase, which is why when the revisions came out, they were abysmal. So wages grew even less than initially thought under Barack Obama. In the first year and a half of Donald Trump's presidency, he steamrolled the Obama tenure in his last 4 years. We hadn't seen on the 12-month basis, even in the employment situation report, the monthly jobs report, we just hadn't seen 3% wage growth or more that was real, not economic distortions from what we're seeing now, was real since the third quarter of 2008, before the Great Recession. So, took a hit on wages anyway. So it was a big achievement. And to see this happen is sad. And going back to the sub-indicator levels, you see marginal all within the sampling error, which is the least gain. You got a 1 point gain for current business, right? A 1.8 gain for current employment. 1.5 for business. 1.2 for employment. Even though these suck, these numbers aren't good, you have total expectations for total family income lagging even that. 0.3 of a percentage point. That's nothing. I mean, you guys know that. That means nothing. And I don't know why these graphics aren't where they're supposed to be. Hey, bars, get in the right rows. Anyway, and what is this? See this?
Mm-hmm.
What's happening here? All right. Anyway, it's telling us that not only are those views hardening and they're being negative, when we look more specifically at these sub-indicators, people are really, really worried about how much money they have and how far that's going to go 6 months from now. And what they feared in August, they feel has come true in September. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good way to put it. I'm trying to explain this the best way I can. And looking at this, I don't see how things get better. I just don't. We're losing even 5 or 10% of the workforce in certain industries for mandates. American Airlines just lost, or United, was it United or American? They just lost hundreds of employees.
Oh, I confused the two.
These numbers are ridiculous. Another 300 walked out of the hospitals in North Carolina. I mean, in one system, one health group. This could do real damage to our economy. And it's not like Joe Biden's going to get any more competent, guys. I mean, what he's proposing, the gas tax, mileage, it's going to crush people. Consumer spending is going to collapse. They're not going to spend more this Christmas if this keeps up. We're moving into the holiday season. Things have been really bad. Outlays have sucked. And this is supposed to be where we get a jolt. And people are just not telling us they're willing to do that. The people that surround Joe Biden are not going to get any smarter. They're not going to. The worst part about it is, Laura, they don't change their mind in the face of failure. The testimony yesterday over Afghanistan, as an example, was terrifying. That guy, he got ready. He was like, first of all, I just want to say I told Joe Biden he needed 2,500 people in Bagram. First of all, I just want to tell you what the testimony from all these people yesterday showed. Millie's an idiot. But what this testimony showed
that is number one.
Was that he was told. And these people who were running the show at the White House, Susan Rice, and I don't know what Ron Klain had to do with. Why does Ron Klain have any role in foreign policy? First of all, he's supposed to be health. That's supposed to be. He's chief staff, but he's supposed to be health. Jack was right. Poso, you watching? He was right.
That's right.
They are running the show. Ron Klain is like basically giving advice where he's not supposed to give advice. I mean, based on Jack's reporting, he said, hey, look, Klain is the one who's running this. He was right by this. He was absolutely right. And that's a real shame. Anyway, moving along here. The bottom line is I don't really see how it gets better. And that's really the sad part about it. I just don't. I don't know how things turn around. Even if they pass these bills, it's not like shovel-ready jobs are really shovel-ready. Remember Barack Obama. That's not going to make an impact all that quickly. It's just not. I mean, the bill is payback for people who supported him regardless. And there are even groups of people he has problems with now, like certain public sector unions. Mm-hmm. You think that's going to placate them? And they're going to get right on their horse to help Joe Biden? I just don't see it. In the immediate future, I don't see it. And the index, just register voters is not, it's telling us it's not going to happen, So, and actually, if you go through, stop the share. How do I stop? There we go. Give me 1 second. I have the cross tab up. Let's look at some of the individual demographics. And again, peoplespundit.locals.com. You guys have this link. All right. So you guys can do it all you want. I should have actually grabbed. I don't know why I didn't grab that one, but let me just make sure you guys can't see my emails when I go through this. But let me try to get the link so when I do it, it doesn't impact it. Here, let me just hit share, email link. And you guys have it. Here, you know what? Can I send this to you, Laura? So in case they don't have it, they can follow along with it. All right. Director at. Man. Tell you what, better get some sleep soon. Starting to make stupid mistakes.
I'm going cross-eyed.
Like the at went before director.
Why does this baby wake up at crazy hours too?
It's not that. It's work for me. It's not even the
But I'm
kids.
just saying, on top of it.
Yeah.
On top of work, he wakes up at 3 a.m. like, hey,
Yeah.
hi.
This morning though, it was adorable. Instead of like kids getting up in the morning and like crying, like babies crying. He's not a baby anymore. He's a toddler, but he was just like, I could hear him through the monitor, and it was early. Daddy, hey, hey, and I'm like, oh man, already.
And that's after I got back to sleep.
You know, like, but it was freaking cute. It woke me up with a giggle, you know, instead, because most of the time, just, you know, any parent knows, usually wake up to the toddler screaming, like he's in his room or she's in his room by herself. It's like, hey, where's everybody? Wah! Not this time. It's adorable. All right. Let's look at, by, let's say, education. How about that? That sounds good. Then we'll look at income. All right. Current business conditions, high school or less, 23.2 versus the average, again, the national, is 27% positive this month. All right. The problem is that negative outpaced it and rose with it. So as neutral came down from the mid 40s, negative took its share too. You know, it's upsetting. Some associate's degree, 27%, undergrad, 29%, postgrad, 30%. These are the guys who always give us the very positive answers. All right. Anything from high school or less or some associates. This is, you know, real working class, but I would argue some college associate, they can have a lot of working class to them, elements to them too. They can, because they may be the no college 4 years ago or 2 years ago, and now they have like an associate's degree. Maybe they go back to the labor force instead of finishing. They get an undergrad. Mm-hmm. You know, so or you got to be careful because Quinnipiac sucks at this. They'll include like kids who are going to school still, but they'll tell you, I only have an associate's degree or I have a high school degree, because they haven't even gotten that yet. You know, an associate's yet. Quinnipiac will put them in working class. They're not working class. They're still in school, you idiots, which is why you should have an employment status question all the time too. This way you can cross and see whether or not they're still just students, because that is not working class. All right. And if they have like a part-time job and they're a student, that's arguably working class. I would debate that too. All right. So let's look at income. Take a sip of my coffee. Found this interesting. 100,000 to 200,000 were actually dipped. All right. And it's right around only 1 point higher positive. Negative is actually higher than the national at 35.7. In order for people to tell you they're feeling really good, you got to go to 200K or more annually. All right. 50 to 100,000, 28.6%, and 32.5% negative. Neutrals, 39. If they're, we're really getting into working class here now. 30 working class poor almost. 30,000 to 50,000. All right. Well, this is definitely working class poor, but 30 to 50 working class, 26.4% positive, 41.3% neutral, 32.3% negative. Again, higher than the average. And while under 30,000 is much lower with positive views, it's actually slightly lower with negative views and a big chunk of neutral. All right. Pretty interesting stuff. You know, the bottom line is here, and look, you know, that 100,000 to 200,000, that's kind of dangerous, because a lot of people, and I know this is going to say, I don't want to sound yuppie, and you guys know me, I'm no yup. All right.
Liar.
In some parts of the country, stop it. I am not a yup. In some parts of the country, 100,000 to 200,000 is not that much money. And this is household income. It's not personal income. So if they make 100,000 to 200,000 and live in a metro area, it's not really good for them right now. You know, I mean, things are tough. I know that sounds like, you know, some people live in rural and suburban America. Like, I'd love to make almost 200K. Well, who the hell wouldn't? But 150,000 in, you know, in Manhattan or Atlanta. Atlanta's a little bit easier. That's not true. Like all the southern metro areas, they're nothing like where we came from. I'm talking about cost of living. You know, but out west, there are some problems there with cost of living, obviously, California. Just too damn much, you know. All of the Northeast, which is economically depressed in most areas, is pretty damn expensive. You know that. All right. So, yeah, I mean, so, you know, just try to think about other people's experiences is what I'm saying. All right. I see you over there. As long as it's related, go ahead. I'll take a sip of coffee. Go ahead. Shoot some over.
Ask any question.
Go ahead. It's not Friday yet, but
I don't care.
go ahead. As long as it's
Friday
related,
as much
topic related, hit me.
They may not be. So you just.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Oh, listen to her.
Producer producing.
I'm going to take a sip of coffee.
Drink your coffee.
Go ahead.
Hold on, I'm pulling it up. Un momento. All right. Did you first?
I should put this up first with Laura. No, I'm just kidding.
Go ahead. Watch yourself.
Coming for you, babe.
Did you watch the debate in Virginia?
I watched some of it, and I meant to get a clip that is going around.
Well, Vince wants to know, what do you think about Mick Awful's debate last night, where he said parents shouldn't be telling schools what to teach their kids? You
know, I think that there's two ways this could go. That could be one of the worst debate blunders we have ever seen. But Republicans have to take advantage of it. And honestly, I was less than impressed with the Republican response. You know, King's response. I thought he let him off. You know, talking about books. You know, what you did with books. You did. You know, but you did with the books. That was not the way to answer that. The way to answer that is, and I quote me on it. If I was doing debate prep, you know, forget it. If I was the candidate and I was off the fly, I would turn him like, what the hell did you just say, Mr. McCullough? Terry, what the hell did you just say? You don't think parents have any input in what we teach their children? You know, I mean, that was the right way to go after him. Instead, he got over semantics with books. And I was like, it's still a bad clip, really. You could run that over in Loudoun County and scare the hell out of some suburban women. You know, I'm serious. But it would have been better if Youngkin would have fought a little bit harder after that. This is the problem. You know, he's like, well, I support Trump's policies, but I didn't like his crassness. I didn't like his bluster. That's part of what made Donald Trump fight so hard, though. And that's the problem with those kind of candidates. They're trying to do this delicate balancing act where they take the Trump base and then add some of the suburban people they think they scared away under Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is, you guys know that you're my viewers. You know the truth. You know why Loudoun County doesn't vote Republican anymore. If we had the electorate we had 30 years ago, it would still vote Republican. We don't have that electorate. Immigration, education, migration. Immigration, migration, education. And you know that. But doesn't mean it's not going to sit very badly with some parents. I mean, without a doubt, it probably will. However, they'll have those non-parent left-wing whites who are going to... I mean, people cheered for Terry McAuliffe after that, Laura. They cheered for him. Because you know how they pack all those events. Those events are packed with media and the friends of media who are all liberal.
Yeah, to give the view of the candidate having...
Even so-called Republicans are always like dumbed down, no-fight, dummy moderates. You know, I mean, it's...
Well, my fear was when
those
Trump
things
debated.
Yeah,
remember?
That was totally...
When they were... He was like,
totally
just so y'all know.
He was right.
Well, he didn't say y'all.
No.
Sorry, that's
It's just so everybody knows this place is packed with Fox News executives and Jeb Bush's donors. You remember that? Oh my gosh, something like that, something to that effect. I fell out. I looked at those. Oh my God, he did not say that.
That was epic.
We knew also knew a bunch of people who had also gone to that event, and it just got an incredible reception from from a small group of people that were in attendance, and the rest of the room was outraged, including Republicans. You know,
but they were laughing so hard though.
The one that Trump, yeah,
they were laughing so hard.
He won over a few rows as the time went on making these comments. That and the other one that was just too much for a friend of mine who went there. That was a different debate. But he went there and sat there personally, and he said, "That's it. I'm voting for Trump." When he got out of there, he called me and he was like, "Did you watch it?" You know, and I said, "I did." I said, "I told you. You got to witness one of these before it's over." And he's like, "I'm so glad I went. I got to vote for the guy." The fall off the stage thing was just too much for me because he was talking. He said, "You know what, Jeb? When we started, you were right over here next to me." He's like, "But ever since we kept going, you're getting further and further away, and soon you're going to fall off the damn stage." And that was based on polling. Yes. Where your pole position was is where you stood on stage. And Jeb started as the Republican frontrunner, and he ended up in single. I mean, we did the math for People's Pundit Daily on how many votes how much Jeb Bush paid for a single caucus vote in Iowa. You remember that article? Oh my God. Please clap. Yep. Clap. But you remember how much he paid for a single? I don't remember it off the top of my head. It's on People's Pundit Daily. But I couldn't believe it.
It was a big number. All right, so
and Donald Trump paid like nothing.
No.
And came in second.
Jay De Vera would like to know, what are we all scared of? Why do we allow these things to happen to our country?
You know,
I think it's
at this point they're kind of steamrolling. I'm not sure. There are a lot of people who are getting into gear now. It was complacency for so long that may have cost us dearly. But now there are a good deal of people who are getting up and doing something. And it's part of what we tried to bring you with some of these interviews with some of these candidates. You know, Joe Kent. I mean, look at him now. I mean, he's one of the most well-known congressional campaigns in the country. Patrick Witt, Mike Collins, David Giglio is turning the world upside down out in California. But the bottom line is, you know, that the right doesn't fight. You know, I mean, it's not hard.
I don't understand this though, because they were the party.
They were the fight. Yep.
Defenders.
Yep. But they basically have a huge base of people who just want government to do its job, stay in its lane, and they want to live their life with their families and preserve their way of life. What I think they're starting to wake up to now is that you can't do that. You can't trust them to do that. The left is at a point where they're moving with these mandates. There are a lot of people resisting, guys. There are. And now the left is at a point where they have no choice but to rely, like I said before, on police power, you know, government coercion, because they don't have the argument. Despite the fake Fox News polls, guys, they don't have the public on their side. So they have no choice but to try to ramp up the fear. You know, we're all going to die from COVID. You don't get a vaccine, you're a murderer. You have no choice but to do that. But here's the problem. They weren't a credible regime to begin with. They didn't have a lot of legitimacy to begin with. So for people who are like, you know, a little bit worried about pushing back, now is the time to do it. Because they were already in question as far as legitimacy and credibility. And now with the one, I can't stress this enough, the one issue that gave them a shred of credibility is collapsing on them now. Mm-hmm. It's collapsing. Official totals, by the way, Joe Biden will surpass Donald Trump in the death count. COVID. He will. It's going to happen.
In less time.
In the official, you know, lag.
I'm saying the official record, whatever, but in
less
because time.
Donald Trump only got one season. He didn't get more. He didn't get other variants.
Joe did it much faster and will surpass him.
And that's including, you know, sometimes they're little gimmicks like, marking down certain Fauci juice deaths as
Oh,
COVID
yeah.
deaths, that goes against you. By the way, where's the CNN COVID death tracker?
Yeah.
Isn't that funny? That disappeared. Like the Iraq and Afghanistan body count disappeared once Barack Obama was elected.
Where are the Bears report?
Right. I mean, the bottom line is now would be the time for those who are apprehensive, because this one issue, this one thing that he had to lean on is it's gone, and it's turning against him, which will leave him with nothing, no power, no power, because the agencies would still listen to him, or at least to a certain point. What he has is no credibility. It's called regime in international relations. It's called regime credibility, and he has none.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gone. He had a shred with COVID, and now he just doesn't, because people don't trust him anymore. I think that Reuters poll is just totally devastating for him, because Laura, our trend, we were getting there. Do I have a COVID trend I could show them? It was getting. I don't have it up yet. The economy and foreign policy was there first, but all of those trends for Biden's approval rating we had as well, and you can see that COVID number is lagging. The overall spread is lagging his general approval numbers, but it's following the same trend. And it's possible the next time we poll, he could be negative on COVID. It is. By the way, the new form is up. I just put it up. There's really no rush. It's up to you guys. But I just decided there was like 1 or 2 donations that kept trickling in from a fully funded project. And I was like, you know what? If some people are going to continue to put it in, I'm going to move to the next one. So I did it. I just haven't pushed it yet. All right. And really, there is no rush.
How we roll.
You can contribute if you want to contribute. It's there, in the YouTube. I didn't put it in Rumble. I'll put all those links in Rumble too. I didn't.
I don't know if you answered this, because I think you may have when I walked away.
Oh, let me just say, but the Registered Voter Economic Confidence Index landing page on the portfolio part of Big Data Poll is up for locals viewers. All right. Okay.
Candace Taylor for Georgia governor, because I heard you speaking about Georgia when I walked away for a second. She's a MAGA any chance, especially if the big guy endorses her. Yeah,
I mean, there's something going on with Jones. She has support. She's ahead of Garcia. All right. So she's after Jones. She gets about a third of Jones's of support that Jones does. And she seems to be the alternative for people who are hesitant about Vernon Jones.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm just telling you where she comes. But she's in low single digits. If Trump endorses, I should have added, they just didn't want to. They just wanted to do Jones versus Kemp. Frankly, I wanted to add everybody. Well, what if Jones endorses her? What if Jones endorses Garcia? Trump endorses every single one of them? I really wanted to give that a crack. But they wanted just Kemp and Jones, so I just went along with it. Not when I went along with it. It's cost, guys. You add a question, it's more money. So this is what they wanted. So I said, all right, we'll do the 2 top leaders. So, yeah. It made sense.
Let's see. Joey G wants to know, would Millie
that.
Would Millie tip off China if Biden wanted to attack?
You know what? I don't trust that SOB at all. I think Don is right. He's not like by law a traitor, by the law itself, but he's a betrayer. Mm-hmm. What he did to Donald Trump is a betrayal of the president and the country. I think, we're not at wartime. Otherwise, he could be charged with treason. It's that simple.
Because he said he doesn't trust his traitorous behavior.
Yeah, I went myself to the word traitor because that's the way I thought. But Don is right. Legalese, he's a betrayer, not a traitor yet. Although, you could argue, it's the war on terror. We're forever in the war on terror. Afghanistan wasn't over yet. We still have troops in Afghanistan. But by law, there needs to be a congressional approval for a declaration of war to be on a war footing, a legal war footing. And we're not. We never got that. We've been running off of this damn resolution. Extended resolution is ridiculous. authorization for use of force. That's what it was originally called. Okay.
Chris emailed me a question.
Ooh.
And said, I have a question I hope you can answer. I was reading Fox this morning, and there's an article regarding Meghan McCain going on Meet the Press. It appears she stated that Build Back Better plan polls badly.
Wait a minute, say that again.
Build Back Better?
That's the Biden thing.
Yes.
Yeah, let me read it.
It's the way he typed it.
She has no choice but to continue her transition to a Democrat. Republicans will never.
He wants to know pretty much.
It's reading Fox Money an article regarding Meghan McCain on Meet the Press. It appears she stated that Build Back Better plan polls bad. Okay, I understand.
That's what I was saying.
That Biden's Build Back Better plan polls badly, without a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
There were comments that she lied and it polls well. I was interested in knowing what the truth is. Do you know how well the plan is polling? Does it matter presented broken down in detail versus presented broadly? That's a great poll. And Sojourner is what I have.
No, that's the next one.
Oh, that's the next one. Oh, okay. Chris, I see. Okay. Chris, that's a great question. I have actually seen Democratic polling on this. And it does matter if you break it down. But really the way they worded it, some of the infrastructure stuff and everything, it's misleading. So the only accurate way to poll it is to break it down. So when they did that, though, it was not popular. And even their own polling showed it. When they try to push it to sound more like the Trump plan. What if the government has an infrastructure bill that partners with the private sector and, is for infrastructure, And then until you start to lay out what is individually in this bill, then it polls badly. And that is really, to me, because it's not infrastructure in the traditional sense. It's not. And it doesn't do what the Donald Trump bill did, which was a real public-private partnership that acknowledges the reality of infrastructure in this country, which is that much of it is owned by the private sector. The government cannot come in. All that will do, sadly, Democratic bills are designed typically like this. It will kick back to their people. Their benefactors are going to get the bids. They're going to get, no one's going to be able to outbid them for a contract. They're going to get that money. Whether or not it's really for infrastructure, the correct area for a certain infrastructure project. It's going to be totally corrupt. Stock jobbers, as Jefferson used to call them. It's going to be the horde of stock jobbers reaching for their piece. Basically, it's not going to work. So for me, that matters when you're polling. Is this true to the reality of what we're talking about here? That is important for me to ask myself as a question when I poll. I don't know if she lied or not about what she saw, but I have seen Democratic polling. In fact, one of the consultants I actually heard on Newsmax, he's a frequent visitor he's a Democrat, but he's like, I can't remember his name right now, but I know it's the same polling. What he was talking about is the same polling, and I know that. And he said it. He was like, look, if we just ask these people whether they support the agenda, the Build Back Better agenda, it's popular. But then when we start to get individually into these proposals, it's no longer, it's not. The individual proposals are not. It's a case of people don't really know what's in the media approved terminology. Biden's Build Back Better infrastructure. When that's not really what we're talking about, is it? It's just in media approved terminology. Another example. When you start to break it down and say, this is a provision in Biden's plan, do you support it? No. And by the way, this idea that this is revenue neutral is ridiculous, which I really need a second to spend. If you didn't see my takedown of Glenn Kessler on Twitter the other day, I strongly suggest you look at it. This is the Washington Post fact checker, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, can I find that? The bottom line is, if you are a viewer or a fan and have been watching for a while, you have seen me go over the Goldilocks zone of tax rates once or twice. The truth is, you could lower the corporate tax rate too low and reduce revenue, or you could lower them and increase revenue. The Trump tax cuts, Glenn Kessler at the Washington Post. did not add to the deficit, as even the CBO was forced to later admit in the budget budget analysis that I sent to you to read, to show you are wrong. The fact of the matter is, the Trump tax cuts, staying within the Goldilocks zone between 15 and 25 at 21, raised revenue, which was expected by all of us who have a modicum of economic knowledge, a hint of economic literacy. These people are economically illiterate, and they were wrong about the impact to the Trump tax cut. The New York Times, the Washington Post, the CBO, at least the CBO, and I shouldn't even give them credit because all they were doing was saving face. But at least the CBO had the, I don't even know what to call it because I don't want to credit them, but at least they admitted it. We were wrong. Our scoring didn't anticipate how much revenue would increase from the Trump tax cuts. So the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act did not add to the deficit. The deficit is being driven by shortfalls, growing shortfalls in Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security, and defense spending, which we knew all along. But anyway, Biden's plan will not pay for it. And in fact, we'll end up with bigger deficits anyway, because he's going to raise taxes to the point where it will reduce revenue. 50 years of data in the developed world. Yeah, I'm sure if you're a watcher and have been for a while, you've seen me go over it once or twice. I'm not doing it again. And by the way, for the wise ass on Twitter, that data was sourced by the OECD, which is an extreme left-wing organization based in Paris. It's not exactly a right-wing think tank, you moron. I mean, these people are stupid. Look at the damn chart. Source. OECD.
Now, I don't know if you know the answer to this question, but I found it very interesting.
And by the way, there's also a Goldilocks zone for wage growth. Go ahead.
Gotcha.
And Biden's plan will go outside of that. And guess what? He will crush wages. And we were wrong. We estimated a third in our analysis of the Biden plan. It would be much worse.
Mm-hmm. Sojourner would like to know, how much in donations do teacher unions receive from Big Pharma? When I Google, I get nothing.
That's because they don't really have to disclose everything to you. You know,
they don't.
Well, for the unions themselves, it's not like you can go to the FEC and look it up. But you know what? Let me see what I can do on that. All right. Sometimes the best answer, like old Roy says, like Dr. Roy, is that you don't know. And let me see what I can do. I mean, you can't go to Open Secret. Open Secrets may have that, actually. Give me some time. All right. I got some stuff I got to do after the show today. While I'm doing it, I'll see what I can dig up.
Scroll through.
Yeah.
M. Hollow would like to know, Laura Barris, what does Rich think of Dean Heller running for Nevada? I like Joey Gilbert better.
I don't even know what to say. These people never learn.
Nope.
Dean Heller is a disaster. Clark County Sheriff would be better. Joey Gilbert would have been the best. I know Joey, by the way. I just don't, I sadly don't agree with his choice of advisors. And I think they're setting him up to win a primary and lose a general. Because look, sometimes you have to tell your candidate to stop saying some things. And they're saying, they're allowing him to say things, whether he's right or wrong is irrelevant, that will not go over well in a general election. And when it comes to the general, they're going to go to the tail from the tape, and they're going to just play that crap from Joey over and 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 over. But there's nothing I can do about it. Believe me, folks, just so you know, I tried my best. I really did. But I think Joey would be the best governor for Nevada. I do. Because it's really, I've spoken to him at length about this. He understands the election integrity issue. He understands a lot about the pandemic and did from the jump. Frankly, he was the only one the people of Washoe County and Douglas County, including Democratic sheriffs, he was the only one that they could turn to for help when they needed it, when the COVID restrictions were breaking their back. And he did. He helped things. He helped people weather the pandemic.
Mm-hmm. He was there for it.
He helped businesses from not collapsing.
Mm-hmm.
He helped children when the draconian closures were, ridiculous closures were in place. He is the only one with the bona fides, bona fide.
Yeah.
He's a bona fide tyranny fighter.
Amen for that.
And he can be a little bit intense, but I don't even think intensity matters. I just think that sometimes you have to sit your candidate down and have an unpleasant conversation with them. And you have to say, listen, stop it with this crap. Stop saying this. Stop saying that. Great speech. Next time, I want you to remove 3 things from it. Here they are. Do not say them again. They will cost you the general election. This is why you hired me, to tell you the truth. And I'm telling you right now, these things, blah, 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 matter.
Yes.
And they will use them to paint you as a nutcase or an extremist.
Don't make their job
Don't make their damn job easier, Joey. Joey would be the best governor, hands down. And if he runs a sharp campaign, you need Washoe County. You need a change in the direction in Washoe County while you're still able to run up a John Ralston deluge in Nevada like John said Donald Trump did.
Mm-hmm.
That was an incredible rural vote. I've never seen anything like that before. But the bottom line is, it's not good enough. You still need to fight Washoe at least to a draw. And you got to keep your chin up in Clark County. It's a winnable state. I poo-pooed it in 2020 because I didn't think Donald Trump could squeeze that many damn votes out of rural Nevada. But he shouldn't have gone to Douglas. He shouldn't have gone. Go stop by Douglas, one of the bigger rural, biggest. But go to Washoe County. And Gilbert is, and I just told him this would happen. Well-liked, well-known in Washoe County, in the professional world, and everywhere. I told him, no, the minute you run,
a different world.
The very same people who have been praising you for a long time in these articles are going to turn, and they're gonna come after you.
It was day one.
And it was day one. Well, he let the cat out of the bag.
Too early. Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to have an announcement, and you're supposed to control the situation. He got fired up. He got caught in the moment, and he dropped it. I am running for governor. Everybody was like, woo! Because he draws a crowd, boy. If you guys don't know who we're talking about, Sojourner is talking about, Joey Gilbert's intense, man. I see a lot of... Oh, it was... Okay, so who was it?
M. Holla.
M. Holla. I'll tell you what. He's got a lot of potential. And you will know where you stand with him. He's going to do what he says he's going to do. Look, very rarely all these years now, decades.
Don't think about it.
I ran into like a handful of guys. I could count on one hand who I met, would speak to and say, you know what? This guy is really, or girl, whatever, is really going to be that kind of leader when they get in. What they're telling you right now, they're deadly serious and they're going to do. I can, in multiple decades, more than 20 years, I can count on less than one hand. I have room left. And I'm telling you, Joey is one of those guys. He is. I have 3 fingers left.
3.
Yeah. Donald J. Trump and Scott Walker. That's about it. The rest of them may have done a good job here and there, but they caved. He was not in yet.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
True.
But he will be one of those people. He's deadly serious, and nobody's going to spook Joey, and no one's going to buy Joey. That's not going to happen.
He's got his own.
And he's going to fight like hell for the people who voted for him.
It's his spirit.
It's his spirit. It's who he is.
Yeah. He is a fighter.
He is. I'm telling you, I'm just saying. I have to agree.
Mm-hmm.
If I was in the state, Ron DeSantis. Sorry, Ron.
We love you, Ron. Believe me.
Don't yell at me in Palms next month.
Lumi wants to know, will we cover the Texas governor race? I know it's a year away, but just curious.
You see that idiot is running for lieutenant governor, Matthew Dowd? Waste of money. Let me tell you, I'm starting to think this is a grift. There are too many of these media personalities who jump like low profile too. Matthew Dowd is not like a household name. He's a Politico name. Everyone who's in this business knows who he is, but you literally have years of columns that are like anti-Texas. And you're going to run for the lieutenant governorship of the state of Texas? Are you out of your mind? What's really going on here is there's a bunch of never Trump consultants who are running these low-profile personalities, and it's a grift. Mm-hmm. They can raise a lot of money and stuff it in their pockets. I don't know what you're getting out of this, Matthew, but you know damn well you have no chance to win that race. What a waste of money. This is the kind of stuff that should frankly be, this is what you really should be doing, FBI. Like investigating whether or not this is a scam. What difference, if that's what some of these people are doing, can you please point the difference to me from like a mob racket? Like a racket.
Well, you know what? It is.
Like sanitation or something. Right. It's the same crap. It's the same crap. And their friends are picking the bones.
Yeah.
It's a racket.
A smart one.
Tell you what, man. This industry is not subjected to the same rules everybody else is. Like, you could get a RICO charge for what these people do as long as it's, not in that world. If it's same thing applied to a totally different kind of business.
We'd be in an orange jumpsuit singing Nobody Knows.
Damn right, with the cut, clink, 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 clink. But not in politics. And look, the Supreme Court even made it harder to prosecute bribes. And I'm not saying they were right or wrong. I mean, because I think what happened is they were reacting to corrupt federal prosecutors being overly zealous when it comes to their prosecution.
That is Jeb Bush on the phone in CBS because he locked his keys in his car.
You stupid idiot, Jeb.
I thought you would enjoy that.
Please clap.
Please clap.
He will
never live that down for the rest. What made him say that out loud?
Desperation, Laura. Embarrassment. Desperation. Man. Wow, we're way over the time. You got one more you want to throw at me anyway? Sure, I got the itching ear going on here.
The itch in the ear?
Yeah, you know the deal. Talked about this yesterday.
Okay, so Serendipity wanted to know if I could ask you how viable community organizing is for independent in the broad constituency. If that makes sense.
If I understand, I think what she's trying to say. How effective is like community organizing with people who are not political and are like more like independent?
Independents, yes.
Yeah, but you know what? It's about people, and they go out and they talk to people, and they approach and let them get to know them, and in many cases can make them more active. You know what I'm saying? And more engaged and increase participation. And look, I think the right needs to get their act together when it comes to organizing. They just sit back and like laugh at the left, and who's really laughing? Who's really laughing now? I mean, yeah, Barack Obama was an idiot. Guess what? He got elected president twice. So what? His resume was a little light. Didn't matter. It didn't matter, did it? I mean,
Jim.
So what? His wife got a no-show job at the hospital as payback.
Didn't matter.
That's Chicago for. See. That's what I'm talking about right there. So let me get this straight. You could bust the mob for no-show jobs on construction sites, but you can't bust Michelle Obama for a no-show job at the hospital? You see what I'm talking about? It's a racket.
Rules
Political
for thee,
faith. What the hell is the difference?
as you always say, rules for thee, but not for me.
We need to start processing these people under RICO.
Yeah. Jim wants to know when.
I don't know. It just dawned on me.
When in 2016 did you see a Midwestern populist candidate as the path forward for the GOP? Did he see the Rust Belt as competitive before 2016?
Oh yeah, that was the only path forward.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of the 2012, you remember? Let's take it back first. That's a great question. I'll end it with this one.
Yes.
But there were two types of us after Mitt Romney lost to Barack Obama. One who believed the autopsy, and others who did not. And I have to tell you, Sean Trendy was in the same group from Real Clear Politics. He was in the same group with the rest of us, which was a small minority. It was a few of us who said, no, it's the Rust Belt and it's the working class populist message. I got emails to prove it. Sean believed what I believed, which was a populist candidate to bring in millions of working class voters that sat out other races. From Minnesota to Michigan to Wisconsin, down the damn line. Even to the mid-Atlantic, yes, Pennsylvania, because of Appalachia. And I wrote extensively on that. The difference is that I actually thought at that time Chris Christie was the best bet. Because there was no Donald Trump.
He was really good, too.
And I think, honestly, without Bridgegate, he had a very good chance.
Even with Bridgegate and no Donald.
And no Donald, yeah,
probably
maybe.
Still could have pulled it out.
Yeah, maybe.
I think
if he survived until he got to the Midwest. This is the way the Republican primary is. He's going to take a hit in Iowa because he's not going to win Iowa. He could have won New Hampshire without Donald there. I think you're right. Even though Marco did better, that was because Christie's campaign had lost so much money and legitimacy by the time he got there.
Yes.
But if he did win New Hampshire without Donald Trump in the lane, then he definitely would have taken South Carolina. Because for many people don't get this, but the South Carolina primary is moderate. There are more moderate Republicans. It looks more like the New Hampshire. It has more in common with the New Hampshire Republican primary than it does the Iowa caucus, folks. Iowa caucus is much more conservative. And it would have been hard without Chris Christie winning New Hampshire for him to make it to the Midwest. But I did think that and by the way, what's his name from Town Hall? I got into a fight with him over this. It started with him emailing me and trying to. He was like the Town Hall, like one of the heads of the Town Hall when it started. He had a show and he wrote in the financial section of Town Hall too sometimes. He was like a political editor. It's like Jonah Goldberg's friend. The hell was his name? Anyway, I wrote a paper that the autopsy was bull, and that the Census Bureau data, when that came out, backed up and affirmed my argument. And that somebody like Chris Christie, a straight-talking, working class kind of message, working class kind of guy to bring forward that message. And he disagreed. After Bridgegate, he comes back and he's like, yeah, how'd that work out? As if I hadn't written 5 columns already saying it's not going to be Chris Christie. Donald Trump is going to take that lane because they effectively targeted Chris Christie and destroyed him. It's like he just chose to focus on the first paper and none of the addendums. You know what I mean?
Of course not. That would
This
make
chump.
it look stupid.
And I'm like, dude, what the hell are you talking about? It's been 2 freaking years or something, And I'm like, have you read all of these? But the point still stood. A straight-talking, northeastern moderate populist, because it really couldn't be a conservative, guys. Like a Ted Cruz, even if he chose to be more populist, because, and this was the argument, there are ideas in conservatism, the more traditional conservatism, that back then would not reconcile with populism. It just wouldn't. And it needed to be a new kind of Republican, which you probably would get out of the Northeast. And that's why Christie was like the top
Mhm.
idea, because he still did do what he still did govern fairly conservatively. It's just that he had a more working class message and working class appeal. And yeah, I mean, honestly, that's why Bridgegate was Bridgegate. We talked about this last week. I mean, they knew he was going to kill Hillary Clinton. And he would, I think, honestly, at the very least, you're looking at Pennsylvania. Christie would have carried, I do think he would have. Barring Bridgegate, I do think Chris Christie would have carried the state of Pennsylvania. Different coalition than Donald Trump, at least in the beginning. Slightly different. I just think it's the tri-state area. I think he probably would have done better in southeastern Pennsylvania. Like, maybe not Bucks, because Trump did fairly well in Bucks, but like, I don't know, Burke and not Montgomery, maybe a little bit better in Montgomery or Delaware. And Christie's tri-state, and they liked him. Same media markets. You have the New York City media market, and then you have the Philly media market in New Jersey, guys. That's how it works. So they were exposed to Christie's successes day in and day out, and day in and day out. He was super popular before remember? I mean, really popular before Bridgegate. And that popularity definitely would have extended over the bridge, without a doubt. You know, I would like, you know, we've discussed that. I really don't like it, but it's going to take me 10 minutes to explain.
Oh, just saying.
Yeah, why don't you though make sure you ask that again? Who asked that?
Kevin.
Ranked choice is like a 10-minute conversation. I don't like it. I'll be honest with you right now. I don't like it. But the question, folks, was would it help us get rid of a two-party system? I think that's a great topic, and I will address it on Friday because it's a long thing. Is he a locals member or is he a YouTube guy?
YouTube guy.
YouTube guy? Okay.
I'll put it down.
That's a great question, though. And Laura she's going to log it right now, and I know you guys hate this, but circle back and talk about it. All right. Yeah, listen, guys, this was good stuff. Well, you know, with the exception of my opening rant, I had a good time today, and it just pisses me off.
It does.
To no end.
Mm-hmm.
I
hate this.
There's no way you can survive with censorship. There's just not self-governing. I mean, and you won't survive anyway because tyrannical societies don't survive. Never do. They collapse from the inside of the. Yeah, man. All right. So, I mean, it's just, I guess I'm just frustrated with the ignorance, and I'm frustrated with the cowardice. You know what I mean? It's like this deadly combination of ignorance and cowardice that's killing us right now. Lincoln was right, man. By the way, I don't even like Abraham Lincoln. Want the truth?
Yeah,
I think he was a freaking tyrant too. Although I do think his approach to Reconstruction was a lot better. And I wish he hadn't been assassinated for more reasons than one. Mm-hmm. I don't think we would have had, you know, the era of Jim Crow if Lincoln was not assassinated.
I believe that.
Because the radical progressives chose to punish the South after Lincoln was gone. And a weak first, then corrupt presidencies failed to stop that from happening, which led to the Redeemer governments who would later implement Jim Crow. The South was electing black leaders to the state legislators for crying out loud. People want you to think it went from like the Civil War to Jim Crow. That's not true. And there were many, many things that happened in the years in between. The GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic pension scheme. The Northern progressives made the South pay for benefits they were not entitled to get. It was the first pension scheme ever in the history of the country. They called it the GAR. It was short for Grand Army of the Republic. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And I'm a Northerner, so it was a real dose, boy. When I got the real history, we praised these generals who torched people down south. And, you know, rape is rape. It doesn't matter if the soldier's wearing a blue or a gray outfit. Yeah, it's a whole other topic. But this history that the North is some hero is the biggest crock of ever. It's not true. And if Lincoln was not killed, we wouldn't have had these blunders. At first, the South was like, all right, arms wrapped around, let's go. Voting rights expanded. People accepted black leaders. But then they just couldn't stop with the punishment and the oppression and the punishment and the oppression. And racist Southerners fought back politically and seized control of state legislatures. They are referred to as redeemer governments. Google them. They would not have risen to prominence if it wasn't for the draconian and incompetent policies the North had toward the South after the war. It's a damn shame. Because now we have this perpetuation of these racial problems because a single party filled with the same kind of people who just changed their name, single party relies on it to survive politically. They could never win an election in a united country. I don't give a damn if it's the Northeast, the West, the South, the Midwest. Democrats would be the extreme minority if it was not for the exploitation of racial hatred and fear and division for political power. Makes me sick. All right. Follow me on Twitter at peoples_pundit. On Getter at peoplespundit. And of course, if you like this video, folks, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. That always helps, especially with the trolls. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. If it's in truth, you didn't like it. But definitely subscribe on YouTube still. Hit that notification button. That'll let you know when we go live. Best way, of course, to support us, to follow us, and, you know, become part of the community. Join the revolution in data journalism. That's peoplespundit.locals.com. All right, locals. See you guys soon. And I will, if I, Laura jotted that stuff down, I'll try to find some of that. But yeah, locals, see you in a little bit. And we'll see the rest of you on Friday for Inside the Numbers. 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll have some more stuff to go over. We'll have Don on. We'll have a big Q&A, which I'm, even though I did more questions today, I promised Laura we'd expand the Q&A session, and we'll do it. All right. So I think there is a guest on Friday too, short guest, but I'm not sure. Madam Producer walked away for a second. I don't want to speak out of turn. All right. And of course, George and Peter coming back, I believe, next week from the Gaggle to talk about, well, basically take up where we left off. That would be good too. All right. All the best, folks. Talk to you soon. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers.
How much you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be. I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. There's rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love. Because you're gonna be a heartbreaker. You're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette. 'Cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Get on a plane and take a one-way ride. steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a knife, just to give in to the need and leave it all behind.
Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow